But let's say that there are people that are so wild and so isolated that they have little of this human nature that we take for granted. I mean, how about language? We learn language in an early age, right? Or these social skills connecting us to the culture we live in. We learn how to take care of our physical bodies. What if these feral people have been living generationally and inbred for several hundred years? Well, guess what? They are. Now,
That, is that the Appalachian feral people?
yeah, and they're real. They're real. I think these people, they are baby and infant souls, except for the ones that have been abducted and taken for breeding or eaten. But there are, I don't know the answer to that. I mean, here's some ideas on that. The mountains of Appalachia, they cover over 1,500 miles and they go from Canada down to Jefferson County, Alabama. Now, I grew up there, Jefferson County, Alabama, outside of Birmingham, in a little subdivision called Mountain Brook. It was in the woods. We were in the woods. It's the foothills of the Appalachia. Daddy used to say that all the time. We live in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. Did you know, though, that there are extensive, largely unexplored caves and caverns in Appalachia? This fascinates me. In the state of, let's say, Georgia, Ellison's Cave is over 12 miles long, and it has the deepest, unobstructed underground pitch in the whole continental United States. Think of the size of that thing. These numerous cave systems also include, commercial ones where they have tours, they have public access, Linville Caverns and Seneca Caverns. But many of the Appalachian systems of caves go so many miles underground. One of the hugest and most visited, though, is Mammoth Cave. Now, I remember going there, my family, we went there. It was amazing. There's also Pigeon Crockford Mountain Wildlife Area. I mean, I've never been there. I know about it. And that includes that Ellison's Cave. Also, the Eastell Mines and Tunnels. This is vast. But don't let this fool you, because how many miles of unexplored caves there are is really unknown. We don't know. But I tell you what, if you're around there and you smell a putrid garbage, feces, vomit smell, you may be near a feral person. So, near Marion, North Carolina, there's a Native American graveyard where the native people in that area buried a lot of these feral people they had to kill. They had to kill them because they were stealing their children. They are vicious, unmannered, untamed, inhuman. They have no social skills. They have no language. And the so-called government, as we had call them, they've also reduced the number of ferals, especially around the parks and the Appalachian trails, because people do go missing on the Appalachian trails. There's a lot of reasons why, but these guys are part of it. They're part of that whole system. So where'd they come from? I mean, how the hell they, you know? I mean, how'd they get there? So in these areas in Appalachia, people know about them. This is not something. Oh, I never heard of that. There aren't huge populations of them, but they're sequestered groups, and they eke out a survival in those caves, hidden areas. And these folks are accustomed to people who live in Appalachia. They're accustomed to having clothes disappear off the clotheslines, bowls of dog food appearing off the porch. That can be coyotes too. But you know what I'm saying. There are children that are grabbed and secreted off. And it's done so secretly, so fast, so adeptly you'd never see them. But some of them have been seen. These feral people, they're not cryptids, but they act like them, right? These are human beings. These are human beings with souls. You get that?
Right.
This is serious shit here. So here's the story of their genesis. Consider the Trail of Tears, and that caused the Eastern Band of Cherokee, Choctaw. Well, I forget who else went on it. Out of Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, North Alabama. It caused them to have to leave those places, and that was 1838. The official starting point was New Echota, Georgia, which used to be the center of the Cherokee Nation. So they left. They were taken away. So that was 1838, right? But from 1861 to 1865, we had the American Civil War, more displacement. Can you imagine that for 27 years, and that's a Saturn cycle for all you astrologers, everyone and everything in that whole area of Appalachia was changed. The whole way of life was changed. The population changed. But can you also imagine that there were Cherokee and other natives, maybe slaves, but who knows, who chose to hide in those caves, right? They hid out. They were displaced by the Civil War. They were victims who chose not to be victims. You get in the picture of this? That was how long ago? Well, that that's the genesis of these Appalachian wild man. It's believed. I really think that is valid. They're occasionally spotted with just their whole bodies covered with sores, ragged, barefooted, bone thin in the winter. Just some of them have the misshapen faces from inbreeding. They speech their speech is like in screams, grunts, noises, but no words. And they are believed to abduct children to raise, for inbreeding, which is awful. And yes, adults have disappeared too. I mean, it continues, and bones have been found. Supposedly, they eat people too. But here's the thing. Once again, consider that these are human beings with souls. I kid you not. And once again, what you call the government is well aware of these guys. These guys are extremely territorial and hugely dangerous. They are apex predators in their own way. The feral humans live in that. I mean, they live in this reptilian brain of fear. Can you imagine? They are totally in the first three chakras. Totally. Healthy? Are you kidding? What about teeth? Do they have fire? I don't know if they can make fire. They watch. Many times people in the woods have said, we know we're being watched, but you don't hear them because they're like animals. They can move stealthily. And this is very interesting. It's reported that, the Jungle Book, Rikki Tikki Tavi by Rudyard Kipling. It said that that's a true story about a boy captured who was feral. And one of the kings of England, who was it, George something? He had a feral child that he kept kind of a pet, took him over to England, and it died. It never acquired speech or anything like that. So, neurologically, consider what happened if you capture one of these beings that say is 14 years old. Their brain might not have the capacity, the Broca's area, I think, to form speech. I don't know. I can't imagine. And I guarantee you, what we call the government has some of them. Well, this will be interesting. Let's see what they do here, here, here. I don't know. But it's not like My Fair Lady where, you're going to get a gal that in Britain is a scrub woman on the street and turn her into a fancy person. This is something totally different. They have never ever been in society, except for the ones that are captured. And they're insane. You go absolutely insane. So I mean, what do you think happens over there? It wouldn't it take 3 or 4 generations from 1838? Wouldn't it take 3 or 4 generations for the emotions, the neurology to acclimate to this way of living? I do. I think they're absolutely insane. I mean, they you have to be. So because I'm only your humble research analyst with more ideas and answers, I continue to encourage all of you to do your own search area. On YouTube, there are some really, really good people researching this, fascinating sites on it. Just write in feral people of Appalachia, see what you find. Make your own decision. They're absolutely there. And I think they are seen, accessed, heard more than, say, Dogman, Bigfoot. Um, but there are a lot of scary stories about the feral people, but most are about that they watch you. It's said that they can traverse forest floors silently, as I've told you, but that says more about the ability to learn something than an innate skill. They learn something. Um, they attack or they don't attack, but they seem to recognize weapons. If you have a gun, they can stay away. I mean, I feel pity and compassion, prayerful reverence for these people, with a great desire to stay the hell away from them. I mean, don't go looking for them. Just let them be. But if you're traipsing around in those southeastern areas, be aware that you're probably being watched. Someone's watching you. Appalachia is a weird place. When I was growing up there, I was in the woods a lot. I never encountered anything weirder than the little people, the etheric things. I was very, very protected by spirit. And I was pretty shrewd and aware. I grew up with those skills. I never heard anything about this, but this is mainly Virginia, the areas of Virginia, West Virginia. The Appalachian Mountains it's the oldest mountain range in the United States. It's huge. I mean, who knows what's in those caves? 1861 to 1865, we had the American Civil War, more displacement. And can you imagine that for 27 years, and that's a Saturn cycle for all you astrologers, everybody and everything in Appalachia was changed, everything. And can you imagine also that there were Cherokee and other native people who chose to stay? They didn't want to leave, right? Don't leave my home. They'd hide out in those caves, possibly. That was the Civil War. There were victims there who chose not to go. Who knows? Slaves? I don't know. And that's the genesis of these Appalachian wild men. They're real. This is real. They're occasionally spotted with, sores covering their whole body. They're ragged, barefooted in winter. Their teeth are just disgusting. They smell horrible. And their speech is screams, grunts, and noises, but no words, right? They're believed to abduct children to raise. There have been bones of children that have found they've eaten them. The inbreeding is clearly awful. And yeah, adults have disappeared too. I mean, it continues. This is still going on. But here's the thing, these are people. They are people with souls. I kid you not. And what you call the government, as if there is the government, they're well aware of them and they've been these people are very territorial and dangerous. And I think cannibalistic. These guys, they live in total, absolute fear, lower chakras, pain, fear, just terror. I mean, what do they have? They have no skills except what they could eke out in that way. This reptilian brain reactivity, and their stalking measures, they've learned that, but they don't have any civilization. And, it's reported that the Jungle Book, Rudyard Kipling's story, But that really is true. That and I guess it was in India they found there's a feral child that they had, and he never acquired speech, never really got it together. And one of the kings of England, George something, I think, he had a feral child kept as like a pet. They took him over to England, and it died eventually, but it never acquired speech or culture either. So think about, what do you think happens? Let's say in the 1830s, if it takes 3 or 4 generations, what do you lose human wise? Emotionally, neural ability, if you're not getting proper nutrition or any, I think these people are absolutely insane. Insane. Especially the ones that have been abducted, the adults and the children, if they're kept and raised there, you go insane. So, I'm your humble research analyst with more ideas and answers. And I continue to encourage you all, do your own research. Get on YouTube and search Feral People of Appalachia or Wild Men of Appalachia. Look at this research. I haven't seen a picture of one yet. These are not supernatural beings.
They're human
Now,
species.
yeah, these are people. Now, that said, I grew up playing solo in those foothills of Appalachia in Jefferson County. I grew up in this suburb of Birmingham called Mountain Brook. We were outside of Mountain Brook. It was hilly. I never encountered anything weird, but except all the fairies and little weird supernatural things I dealt with. But there were no caves there. There are no caverns. The closest ones are, I don't know where they were, but they weren't there. And there are a lot of scary stories about the feral people, and most of this stuff on YouTube is to scare the crap out of you. But I think the main thing they do is watch. They watch you. They can tell the difference in if you have a weapon or not, especially a gun. And they have been reported attacking people on the Appalachian Trail. So what we call the government has cleared a lot of them out of that area. And I mean, I feel pity for them. I feel a lot of compassion and peripheral reverence that's coupled with a desire for distance. There, you can't.
So the government, they just leave them to their own devices as long as they're not causing problems.
They've gotten rid of a lot of them, and they've allowed others to live. I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't understand the process. To me, compassionately, they need to be killed. I mean, yes, you're killing a human with a soul, but it's a war. And these people are they happy? Are they healthy? Are they having any kind of life? It's really pretty awful. So I don't know. What do you think of all that, Linda?
It's curious to me that that a breakaway humans can live so close to civilization, to other humans living in peace with one another, and yet be so very different. It's amazing to me also how in just a few hundred years such a radical change can, so it's almost looks like they're supernatural or some type of horrifying other creature when they're still people like us.
Correct. And their generations are probably very short. I can't imagine they live very long at all. I can't imagine that. There and how many generations?
Do they have a different belief system, or are they too wild to even have a belief system?
They don't have. I don't think they even have that. These are inbred people. They're less than animals because animals have abilities to clean themselves, to get nutritious food. Animals have God given abilities. This is another weird ass species. And are they all over the world in different places? Probably.